It's time to down tools for a bit. Welcome to the ToolShed, the influential podcast for anyone and everyone involved in the building industry. Here's your host, Mick Hawes.
Hey folks, welcome to the ToolShed podcast. As I often say, if this isn't your first rodeo, if this is not the first time you've watched the ToolShed or listened to the podcast, we're always looking for tools and resources and platforms and peoples and philosophies to help the owners of building businesses in the country, because there's lots of challenges. Builders need to be lots of things: psychologist, a babysitter, experts at time management, all sorts of stuff. And so we're always looking for things that can help make that journey a bit easier. One of the really common questions that we get asked a lot, particularly in the ToolShed, what is the best builders software? And there's lots of different options in this space, and they have different benefits and different purposes and focuses. So it's really cool to learn and explore all about the different platforms that are out there. And in this particular episode, we're talking to Steve Yates, and he is the CEO of BuildXact, a very, very popular and well-known builders software. Welcome to the show, Stephen. Really appreciate you putting the time aside to have a chat with us. My first question is, how the hell did you get involved in this? Like, whatever possessed you to get involved in software and the building industry and all of that? What's the backstory there?
So, Mick, I've been involved in the construction space for quite a few years, and as I spent time and journeyed through different roles within the construction industry, it became more and more apparent that we had to be adaptable, change with times, and take advantage of tools that are available to optimize the work that we're doing. Your technology. I love the name of your podcast, the tool shed. Technology is just another tool.
Yeah.
Now, I know a lot of listeners here probably got a favorite claw hammer in their toolbox that, it's got scars on it and notches on it and probably plenty of stories to tell. But there are also some amazing technologies around there about hammers now, different materials, the shock absorbing materials, the capacity to do work faster, more effectively. And so we're always in that place, right?
Yeah.
What tools can we bring to the table to maximize our advantage?
Yeah. And so the story of BuildXact, how did that come about? Because there's many different builders software platforms. I've spoken to a number of them. Most of them came from, as you say, being involved in the building industry and seeing some deficiencies, seeing some problems. That's kind of why we exist, because we believe that there is a bunch of unnecessary pain that builders experience. And we're trying to eliminate the unnecessary. Like, I'm all up for necessary pain. If you need to learn a lesson, you might have to learn it the painful way, but there's a lot of unnecessary pain. So what was the driving force behind the creation, the hatching of the idea of BuildXact?
It's fair to say there's a lot of technology in the industry now, but if we step back 13 years ago to when BuildXact began, that wasn't the case. There was technology in the market available to builders that I would say was mostly just a generic idea around customer relationship management that was slightly modified and adapted for use by a builder. There's some shortcomings with that in that it was truly adapted and wasn't really serviceable. I often, when talking about and thinking about construction, and most of your listeners would be consider themselves small businesses. Some of the capitalized value of homes, custom builders in a coastal area might be upwards of $1.4, $1.6 million in build value. So I would ask people, well, okay, let's start a business tomorrow and run it for the next 10 days, 10 months, and then let's close it down at the end of 10 months, have everyone walk away happy and actually get to keep a dollar. And most people would say you're out of your mind,
Yeah.
right? But that's what builders do day in, day out, every day of the year. And BuildXact recognized that in a way that no other construction technology did. And so BuildXact entered in um, to solving the problems of managing a building business by looking at and focusing on what can we do to help a builder to have really good visibility at the beginning of their projects when you have to establish a scope of work, establish building materials, statements of values, and set your project up for success. And the reason we believed that was an important point of view was, CRMs are great, but every builder that I know, and I know quite a few of them, if they could put a fit for purpose project in the ground on time and on budget, they had more than enough work. In fact, they had so much work they couldn't deal with it,
Mm.
right? Because they were so competent. So, what does a builder really need? Does he need a sales marketing platform, and does he need a tool that allows them to build projects, as I said, on time, on budget, and fit for purpose? That was our point of view then. It's our point of view now. We've grown to a dominant position in the Australian market with that attitude and with a deep understanding of the pain points that builders experience every day. And I look at your website, Mick, and look at the conversation you're having with your members, and there's a lot of frustration and
Mm.
stress in this industry around money, time, and staff. Right?
Yes.
Um, and so, understanding that and helping builders with that, becoming a true partner, is a way for us to help builder businesses not just succeed but to thrive.
Yeah. Um, I noticed that tends to be specific challenges that different platforms tend to focus on to address. So, in your journey, you would have, I'm sure, seen just about every challenge, every mistake a building business could make. Um, what do you feel are the most important things that a builder needs to realise that they're missing out on, that they aren't taking advantage of by, trying to bang things together with their own customised spreadsheets or their own, building their own system, writing it on the back of a second-hand envelope, however they do it to get organised? What's the real benefit, I guess, of BuildXact for the guy who's not using anything at this stage?
Okay, so if I could see you who was joining us on this podcast, I'd like $1 for every one of them that's been on a job site telling a tradie or an assistant to measure twice and cut
Cut
once,
once.
right? And if you're working on in a spreadsheet, if you're writing a specification down the palm of your hand and taking a photograph of it and sending it to your sales rep, if you're writing a custom door and window spec on the back of a beer carton and
Mm,
dropping it off on Friday afternoon, um, then you're not doing something once, you're doing that multiple times. All right?
yeah.
And you probably are the hardest working person in the room because you're having to do everything so many times. The advantage of technology and the advantage of BuildXact explicitly with our focus on project inputs is that once you set your project and your business up for success, you've got a repeating and scalable tool that allows you to administer your project and administer your business in significantly less time. And then you can make a choice. You can either spend the time we free up for you to either go and bring in new work, or you can go fishing, or you can cook dinner for your kids. You could choose. Right? Many of you probably have your partner doing a lot of the
Mm.
administrative work in the
Hmm.
business. Well, you could take their workload off them so that they have more time, so that you have more time together. And it's after many years doing this, you know, our customers don't come back and say, "Hey, Steve, you know, thank you. My business has gone to X plus Y." They come to us and say, "Thank you. I now have control over my business. My
Mm.
business doesn't have control over me. My relationship with my family has never been better. I actually went fishing the other day."
Mm.
It's really interesting how our customers come back and express their satisfaction and appreciation in terms of how the technology has affected their ability to actually have a life and a successful business at the same time.
Yeah, brilliant. Um, just speaking about the technology, and another thought that popped into my head when we were talking was, and this would be something that you would have noticed as well, that the three main things that people get into their own business for is they think they're going to get more time, freedom, more financial freedom, so make more money, and what I say, have more meaning, which really means you can do what you want to do, work with who you want to work with, all of that sort of stuff. So you have more choices. The reality of the situation is, for most builders, none of that happens. They end up, working so much they become a prisoner to the business. They don't get to cook the kids' dinner. Um, the financial pressure is immense consistently, and they end up having to work for people or with people that they don't like and cause issues, and they don't particularly like what they're doing. That's very, very common. Is that what you notice with your customers too? And the use of a platform like yours starts to give them back a bit more time, make them a bit more profitable, allow them to work with the right people.
Yeah, it certainly doesn't have to be the way you described it.
No.
I think as you were speaking, I was thinking about a client of ours, and his expression was, "Steve, thank you. You've leveled the playing field."
Hmm.
And we're all in a competitive world, right, Mick? You've got time in the sporting industry, right? We live in a competitive environment. We don't work in isolation. And the interesting thing about, let's call this big group of people we call the construction industry or builders, is we call them the same thing, but they have very different businesses and very different pain points. And let me explain what I mean by that
Mm.
as it relates to this leveling the playing field concept. If I'm a big enough builder, if I'm a production builder, I can do what we call client level negotiation. That is, I can go to my framing contractors, I could go to my suppliers, my manufacturers, and I can say to them, "Look, I know I'm going to build X number of housing units this year, and say I'm going to build 1,000 of them.
Mm.
I know that I need 3,000 water closets. I know that I need 6,000 basins. I know that I need X exterior doors, etc." And I can negotiate my profit into my business on the buy side of that agreement
Mm.
once in February, and then I could spend the rest of the year building.
Mm.
But if I'm a custom home builder or remodeler, or if I'm smaller, I don't have the ability to negotiate at that client level. I have to negotiate at a project level. That means every time I start a new project, I've got a new design, I've got a new box to build, I've got a new statement of values, got a new bill of materials. And so how is it possible for me to streamline that business operation?
Mm.
And that's precisely what BuildXact has thought about and solved for. And as my friend Matt said, because we did that, we leveled the playing field and allowed him to compete in the market with the big guys and become much more successful because of it. Now, his particular choice was not to then accelerate a blue sky approach to growing his business. His approach was, I got a business I now control. I'm in control of the business. I can now actually go back and have some balance in my life and enjoy more time with my family, and I'm good. Right? And he got to that place within 18 months.
Hey, I'm Mick Hawes from Builders Business Black Belt, and I hope you're enjoying this episode of the ToolShed podcast. I've got something super exciting I want to share with you. We've got a place that's got a whole bunch more free resources to help you with your building business. In fact, there's a whole other podcast that gives you specific training that will help you get more free time, more profit, and more enjoyment from your building business. And it's called, funnily enough, the ToolShed. It's free to join, and it's full of other success-focused builders. And I invite you to join us in the ToolShed, where you can ask me questions and get guidance and support from other successful builders. Just click the link in the description to join, and I'll see you in there. I hope you enjoy the rest of this podcast. One of the people that I'm very heavily influenced by is Dan Sullivan, who has written many books. In fact, he's got a goal to write 100 books in the next 20 odd years. So he's pumping out a book every 90 days, and it's good stuff. It's brilliant stuff. One of the books he talks about is Ask Who, Not How. Rather than learning how to do stuff yourself, go to the who has expertise in that area, and it speeds up your progress. Still costs money, but it doesn't cost as much time. And something you mentioned before, just about technology. What are some of the challenges that you face, and how do you address it with people that use BuildXact? Because the younger guys, we've got a bunch of young guys in our group, and they just, run rings around us old fellas with their comfortability with technology and what have you. But there are, guys, more established builders that were doing it on the back of an envelope and realise now that they need to have a BuildXact platform. How do you support them? How do you, onboard them and bring them into your ecosystem in a way that meets where they're at? Because they just may be very challenged from a technical point of view, getting involved with technology. What support do you offer them, or how do you make them comfortable on that onboarding process with BuildXact?
Yeah, so we do it in a couple of ways. The first way I will say this, the barrier is not the costs. There's a lot of people listening to this podcast would spend probably 2 or 3 times our subscription cost each month on lease payments on their truck.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not the cost; it's the cost of having a tool like BuildXact is in the margins.
Yes.
But the true cost is the commitment to actually populate BuildXact with your project specification, with your project build types, with your components and assemblies. That's the cost, right? And that can run into a reasonable amount of time, and you need to have your project information inside of BuildXact for it to be a tool that really drives value for you.
Yeah.
So we do a couple of things. One, we've got fantastic onboarding support, so you're not going to feel alone. There's a rich digital world of YouTube videos. I don't know. I have hobbies around motorcycles and old cars, and whenever I run into a problem that I haven't been confronted before with a particular carburetor or something, I can go to YouTube, and in 2 minutes or so, somebody's just visually shown in front of me how I can solve for that. Right?
Amazing.
It is amazing, and so we do that. Right? So any moment in any workflow in BuildXact, you're likely to find a video that'll give you the answer if you want to be self-guided. But we do something else much more important, and this is unique to BuildXact. We've gone out to the suppliers and manufacturers and downstream services that support your builders, and we've had them develop content. So now when a builder is using BuildXact, they have full single-family residential templates on a regional basis according to build type, automatically within BuildXact. They have component assemblies for cladding, for decking, for whatever their area of specialty is, and and those downstream suppliers and manufacturers are more than happy to provide that content, which in our terms we call this path to value. So people who come on to BuildXact in the onboarding process are getting to value much faster. And here's kind of my final word on this. Many of us grow up with the idea that we've got to stand alone, right? That we're tough and that we're doing this ourselves, and this is a hard industry, and we're building the fabric of this nation, and this is on us, right?
Mm.
Well, I asked you a question before about how much your members help each other, and you said a lot.
Mm.
And the one thing that you get when you move from your bench or your worksheet or your Excel spreadsheet into this technology is you get a highly collaborative environment, and so that the people can help you.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong, and in fact, the smartest guy in the room is the one that recognized I would like to be able to get help that I want. Right? I would like someone to be able to feed information into me how to build what my means and methods should be optimally to get to this solution. And BuildXact spent a lot of time building this network for builders. It's really quite valuable, and builders are succeeding faster and more often and more frequently because the value gets derived so soon once they're into the platform.
Yeah, brilliant.
Hmm.
So we've got somebody listening who is, you know, creating their own spreadsheet or
Hmm.
something less sophisticated, or we've got somebody who's using a platform now. Maybe they're disenchanted with it, they're not happy with it, and they want to go, I want to have a look at BuildXact. Can you run
Hmm.
us through the steps, like where they go first? What can they experience? What do they get to look at? How much of it do they get to drive?
Hmm.
And once they jump on, what's the support and I guess the training process, the onboarding process look like? Just the journey.
Yeah. So while I'm speaking, a listener could go on to buildexact.com, and by the time I finish this sentence, they put in their email address, and they'll spin up a trial of BuildXact, and you get to play around in your sandbox for a couple of weeks. We'll get notified that you've started a trial, and we'll reach out to you and offer to help. Mm. I'd suggest play around for a few minutes, half an hour or so to become familiar with the platform. It's very intuitive. And then call for a demo and have one of our team give a demonstration of how the product works. Once you subscribe after that demo, highly recommend you subscribe, and typically you'll receive 1 to 3 dedicated training sessions over the next 30 to 60 days on an on-call basis. Everybody learns differently.
Mm.
Some people like to learn at their own pace, and they would access training videos, tutorials through our website, or as I said, YouTube, or they can call on help. And we got a fantastic support team. Everybody here really cares, and it's easy for us to care because our builders are so appreciative and such wonderful, true blue folks that they acknowledge and reward us every day with gratitude. So you get a partner, and you don't have to be alone, and we'll introduce you to suppliers that you would like to work with that can add more value by providing templates or any other support you need. Um, uh, More often than not, we'll see, people getting to win that first job. Our builders generally win. In fact, not generally, very specifically, they win 23.6% of all jobs they quote for,
It's very specific.
which is significantly higher than the industry average. And so what we see, the builders get that value, get that transaction, and they're off to the races.
Yeah. And so once they're using it,
Hmm.
you talked about a community, and like
Hmm.
that's just my passion. We, as I mentioned before, we pressed the go button. We were just general business, small business coaches, and my business coach convinced me to go from the one-on-one model to the one-to-many model, where we're educating in groups, getting everybody involved, and the power of that is just profound. And I found that our members improved or increased their progress by a factor of 4. So what was taking them 12 months with the one-to-one method
Hmm.
was taking them 3 months with the community. What's your community look like? How important do you see the BuildXact
Oh,
community to the success and progress of your clients?
it's very important, and I'll have a crack while I'm doing it too, Mick. Our technology embodies the values that you espouse as a coach,
Yeah.
right? So, um, the gift that you're giving your members, the view you're having them look, our technology is addressing the same things, right? So, more than happy we could do some one-to-many training through the tool shed, and more than happy to do that on a regular basis.
Mm.
If you go on to Facebook, and you'll see the BuildXact building block, you'll see builders sharing information. They don't necessarily call us. They go, "Hey, does anybody know how to pull a daily log from Schedule F?" Right? And other builders will chip in and they'll help each other out, and it's really fantastic to see.
Yeah. Yeah. Community is just
Mm-hmm.
so important. It's like
Yeah.
um, it's just so difficult on your own,
Mm-hmm.
and I know that I just get so much enjoyment and pleasure out of just working with our members on a regular basis each week. You know, we had a session today, and it was a good fun session. A few of them felt a bit sick throughout the session when we were working some specifics about how much their mistakes had cost them over the years. it
Yeah.
was it was pretty funny, but it really, they helped each other understand the importance of eliminating mistakes rather than looking at these big accomplishments that they finally or
Yeah.
constantly going for. But you know, a lot of
Yeah.
fun, and I'm sure your community's the same. How does it work as far as how do they communicate with other members of BuildXact? How does that work?
Through our social media channels,
Yep.
primarily through Facebook.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Very good. It's exciting to talk about this. I'm really glad that we had this opportunity to have a conversation. Um, I think we said this at the start, but it's evident throughout our conversation in the podcast that we really are heading in the same direction. Both
Hmm.
your business, our business, are really trying to impact the building industry in a positive way. You're doing it through technology. We're doing it through coaching. And I just so enjoy doing these podcasts and meeting people like yourself that are contributing to the forward movement and the improvement of the industry in a whole. So I just want to thank you for being so generous with your time and putting the time aside to being on the ToolShed podcast. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Mick. I could just have finish on one thought. You know,
Sure.
um, really, what all we've been talking about is time,
Yep.
and uh, I got to tell you, the number of times that I've said to somebody, "Hey, here's a tool that can save you a lot of time," and they'll reply, "Oh, that's great, but I don't have time for that."
Yeah. um,
Uh, I think for the listeners, just think about that for a minute. Take the time. You'll be really pleased that you did.
yeah.
It's not a lot of time, just a few minutes to stop, take the time, have a look, and there's a high probability that a few months from now you'll be looking back and go, "Why didn't I do this sooner?"
Yep, absolutely. Not a truer word said. I know that
Mm.
30 odd years ago, I cut my teeth with training and I was touring all around the country for another company teaching time management. And it I've heard that so many times. Like, I really need that, but I just haven't got time to get there. And it's the most bizarre thing that you've ever heard. You know, I need time management, but I don't have time to go to do the course. So absolutely hearing what you're saying. So thank you very much again, folks. That's it for this episode of the ToolShed podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you were inspired to take some action. Jump on to BuildXact.com, put the email in, take the thing for a test drive, and they will reach out to you, hold your hand through the process, and then you will know whether this is the right fit for you, how it's going to help your business, how it's going to help your team, how it's going to help you enjoy your business far more, get back more time, be more profitable. You've got to have these high-quality tools in your business. You can't be doing it on the back of an envelope anymore. You've got to reach out and figure out how you can make this work for your business. As Stephen said, it's a cost of doing business. It's in the margins. It needs to be charged out in your jobs so you can do a better job for your customer. It's an investment that you've got to make in your business. So I hope you reach out and take BuildXact for a ride. But that's it. As I said, for this episode, we'll be back with another episode of the ToolShed before you know it. I'm Mick Hawes from Builders Business Black Belt. That is all. I'm out. Bye for now.
You've been listening to the ToolShed. If this podcast struck a chord with you, make sure you spread the word by sharing it with your mates in the building industry. We love your help to make the building industry better for everyone involved.